The digital terrain model introduced with Oil Plan 2026 is much more efficient. Let's look at an example workflow. Let's move into the environment role and open the terrain manager. At this point, let's create a new terrain surface and, for example, name it survey. Next, we will be importing our point file into the project. Here, in this case, I'm importing a file that contains 250,000 points. The old system allowed you to import a maximum of 100,000 points. Once I've imported my points, I can go on to define the so-called layout styles. For each of them, I can set a whole series of parameters in terms of representation. So, for example, I can define in a detailed and specific way how my terrain surface should be represented visually, particularly in terms of its color. Now, let's go back into Allplan and select the layout style using the appropriate icon or a specific keyboard shortcut. Let's try to represent our terrain, first of all, as a proxy point cloud, which is a simplified way to visualize complex surfaces before finalizing the detailed model. A proxy point cloud is extremely efficient and actually allows me to easily navigate my 3D model with as many as 250,000 points at an absolutely incredible speed. At this point, let's go ahead and change the type of representation and instead choose a style that specifically displays polyhedrons. Once again, as you can clearly see, the performance here is truly impressive. Now let's bring up this type of wizard, which allows me to make a whole series of optimizations to my terrain. First of all, we'll create a copy of the previous survey and, for example, decide that we want to reduce the number of points. We define how many points we want to obtain and then confirm this operation. Let's delete the previously defined model. Let's go back into the terrain manager and take a closer look at how we've created a new project with a reduced number of points. Once again, I can define a series of characteristics regarding the visual representation of my model. For example, I can set and customize a range of colors for both the main and secondary contour lines, allowing for greater clarity and distinction. This flexibility enables me to tailor the appearance of the terrain to better suit my needs and preferences, ensuring the model is both informative and visually appealing. I click OK. I go and select the terrain layout style function. At this point, not for the survey but for the project, I choose the style I want to use and click Apply. So now on the screen, I will see the terrain surface with the corresponding contour lines. I notice that there are some imperfections along the edges of my terrain. No problem. I use a specialized function that allows me to improve and optimize the boundary of my terrain. Based on a series of settings, I can adjust to remove triangles. I click on the Apply button, and as a result, those vertical triangles that you can see on the outer edges of the shape are removed from view. At a certain point, I realized that I need to work only on a portion of my terrain and not on the entire area I imported. So I can easily define the area that I want to work on, making it simple to select a specific region within the environment that needs attention. After I have clearly specified this area, I can then generate a new terrain, ensuring that only the section I have chosen is isolated and updated, while the rest of the environment remains unchanged. In this way, by following just a few simple and straightforward steps, I am able to obtain the specific terrain that I want to use in order to begin working on my design.